And welcome everyone to the next session of the Free to Fly online conference and fashion show. I am your host this evening, Patricia with a Y, the Director of Operations at the Freebird Project Shop, which is the sponsor of the Free to Fly online conference and fashion show. And I am here with my beautiful co-host Sasha and our very special guest who is right now doing a live to talk to bring her fans in. So I will pass it over to you, Sasha, and you can introduce your role in this evening's festivities.
Hello, everybody. Sasha here, and welcome back for anybody who joined me this afternoon. It's been a busy video day, let me tell you. But I just want to remind everybody, because I'm the Director of Marketing and Finance, I am sitting here tweeting, and I am looking at our Facebook, and I'm watching our YouTube comments. And just like with many of our other sessions, I'm going to be right here working with you to get your comments out there, your questions. So please, I love to chat. I love the interaction, and I'd love to hear from you.
And as Sasha says, we'd love to hear from you. So as we introduce our guest, who is a passionate person, Jan Edwards is her name. I should say that first. So it's Jan Edwards, and she is from pavingtheway.co, and she has a mission and a passion for saving children from sexual exploitation and the horrors that are going on within society these days when it comes to sex trafficking. So this is a tough topic, and we hope that you are tuning in to find out with us what we can do as survivors to help those that are currently in the situation, and what we can do to identify when it is happening. So here we are with Jan. I'll get you started. Hello, and I have to unmute you. One moment, please. Difficult to talk when we got you muted. Where is my, I didn't mean to press that. Lovely. Can I get you to do that, Sasha? Because I'm not sure where I'm supposed to press.
I'm unmuted. I unmuted me.
There we go. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jan,
You're welcome.
for joining us despite the technical difficulties. As Sasha said, it's been a little bit of a long day this Wednesday. So to start off with, could you just tell us a little bit about Paving the Way and your passion for this cause?
Absolutely. So about 3 years ago, I was invited to the UN at the Get Help Summit. And there I met this extraordinary man. His name's Dr. Mahari, and he has a nonprofit out of Ethiopia where he gathers the diaspora from Ethiopia to help the orphans in Ethiopia. And we just had a quick exchange, and I emailed him, and he sent me a text, and within like days, he sends me an email going, "Hey, going to Ethiopia, do you want to go?" And I'm like, because what's right there for me is like, yeah, I want to go. And then my mom's like, "You sure you don't want to go?" My daughter's like, "You want to go?" So I, did what there was to do, and I went. And it was there that I learned about not only the human trafficking, but also the child soldiers. I had no idea what this was going on. I live in Orlando, Florida, land of Mickey Mouse and sunshine, right? We live, quite frankly, in a little bit of a bubble here, and I had no idea what was happening in the world. And Ethiopia's got 7.5 million orphans, and they're the #1 source for human trafficking into the Middle East. As a mom, I was horrified. And so I came home, I started to do some research because I really wanted to do something about it. And that's when I discovered that Florida has the 3rd highest number of calls to the National Trafficking Hotline, only behind California and Texas. I was like, okay, hang on again, right? Land of Mickey, land of fabulousness, and hang on one second. Bye, honey. My daughter's toddling off to do some stuff. And I was like, wow, okay. So I started to do some research going, how can this be happening? And I talked to the FBI. I talked to the the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. I talked to Homeland Security. I talked to survivors. I even talked to undercover police officers. And I asked them, I said, what's the one thing that's missing that if it were there would make the biggest difference? And they all said awareness. So I have 25 years of marketing and media background. I'm like, well, I can do that. And so that's really what started me on this journey of, kind of, I'm a businesswoman, right? I'm a mom and I'm a businesswoman. So in my mind, I'm thinking supply demand, right? And so I want to cut off, we're out to disrupt and cut off the supply such that it actually decreases the number of children that are at risk out in the world.
That is an amazing story. So it was basically a meeting at a UN, and from that, this has begun. So you've talked to FBI, you've talked to law enforcement.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the overall problem of sex trafficking in the US? Because I think in North America, we don't acknowledge it as something that is out there.
Right. Well, there's a global issue, and then there's, I'm going to say on this side of the pond issue, right? So internationally, it's about $150 billion business, and there are more slaves today than there ever have been in the world. And in the United States, according to Homeland Security, 1 in 5 children will be subjected to sexual exploitation. And they also say approximately, and that's both online and offline, and then approximately 300,000 children a year are lured into this lifestyle, which works out for the state of Florida to be about 24,000 children a year, 2,000 a month, and about 67 children a day are lured into this lifestyle. So by the time we're done tonight, 3 plus about 5 kids will have been lured into this lifestyle.
What's luring them? What is causing? I mean, I know that, I know when I was a child that the common things were coming from a broken family, and you have disrupted and runaways and so on. But what's really drawing them to this lifestyle? Surely by now they know that there's options.
That's a really great question. So a couple of things, right? So pimps are expert manipulators. And they just need one little teeny tiny thing to start to sever the relationship children have with their friends and their families. And it can start online, right? Everybody vents on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat, and all it takes, and predators are monitoring all of this. All it takes is that one little memo, mention of, oh, my mom didn't make it to my ballet recital today. Or, gosh, you know what, my dad missed my game on Friday. Or, I hate my best friend, she, wore the same outfit. I mean, it's what teenagers do. They vent about stuff. And so someone will actually engage with them in that moment. Gosh, I'm so sorry your mom didn't make it to your ballet recital. What was that like for you? And they start to build this rapport. And all of a sudden they start to make the parent or the friend wrong. So I, as a teenager, start to distrust the important people in my life because of what this person's saying. I'm young, I'm vulnerable, my mind is not fully developed yet. And our inherent need as human beings to love and to want to be loved and to want to be liked and to want to fit in. If there's someone online who seems sympathetic and empathetic to what I'm dealing with and agrees with me that I'm right and so is wrong, it's going to start to create a really powerful bond. And that's how they start to lure them out of their safety net of their life into something else. I have a friend that's really been engaging with me. He has a female friend that's been stripping because she makes great money at it. And out of the blue, a friend of hers from grade school sends her a text, says, hey, you're looking hot, call me, let's connect. He flies her up to Connecticut, doesn't buy her a ticket back, expects her to pay rent and all these other things. And so she flew immediately home, all based on the promise of a record career or a modeling career. And this is how it happens. I get upset at home, somebody figures that out, we get together, and off we go. That's one way. This other way is actually a little more subversive, and for me, it's more frightening. And it happens to kids. And here's the thing about trafficking that I want to say. It knows no socioeconomic boundary. It knows no geographic boundary. It knows no psychographic boundary. People from really, really great homes, people from, impoverished homes can end up in the same brothel. They just may have gotten there differently. I've actually written and produced a film called Trapped in the Trade. It's a short little docu-film based on real topics. And it's a story about Samantha, a little girl next door, who's new in school and is intentionally and specifically recruited by a girl and a boy. There are children in high school today that are recruiting other kids into this lifestyle. And it's a story of how she goes to a party. It's her first big high school party. She's never been invited, never been in that in crowd before. And, the boy gives her a drink. She drinks it. It's roofied. And the next thing you know, she's got pictures of herself on her cell phone that in very compromising positions that she would never have done. And, you have to think at 13, 14, 15, someone says to you, meet me here, or these go viral. You're going to meet them there. Or you have to meet me, or I'm going to hurt your friends or family. And so, you have to understand the underdeveloped brain of a teenager. Because look, the average age is 12.
The average age? That means there's younger.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as a parent, these are really challenging conversations to have with our kids, and they're imperative. They're like life-saving conversations to have. I'm happy to say my friend's female friend came back home, right, within 2 days, thank goodness. And I'm very clear it's because the conversations he and I had that I empowered him to have with her, just to have her look, right? Just look for a minute. I'm not saying it can't be real, but just look. And it had her come home. Now, she may go off and do something else, and from what I understand, she's still stripping. However, in my world, that's the possibility of a life that might have been saved.
Absolutely. And so, this sounds so invasive and pervasive, and it doesn't sound like there's a lot of similarities between these pimps and typical abusers.
Yes.
With the isolation and the manipulation and the using the things that they know about you to bring you deeper into it. Are there ways to stop it and shortcut it? What conversations and at what ages should we be having these conversations? Now, I personally don't have girls. I have boys. Is there a conversation that we should be having with the boys too?
Yes. Yeah, so 2 things. 40% of the kids that are trafficked are boys. So if you're a parent of boys, you're not any safer than you are of a child with, a parent with girls. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I just did a very similar, I did a telesummit, except everybody was on the phone a couple of weeks ago, and I interviewed 16 people from around the world. And one of the things that my friend Al Dana, who's a former FDLE agent, and he specialized in crimes against children, and he's also now a reserve agent for them, and he travels around the world teaching his interrogation techniques to people all around the world, because he's had the most success in putting these pedophiles behind bars. As he said, look, being a parent in 2016 is not like being a parent even in 2000 or in 1990. The things that our children have to deal with today are nothing compared to what we had to deal with. I don't look my age, but I'm older than I look. And back in my day, right, the worst thing that could happen to us was you got pregnant. That was like, that was equal to death in a family if you got pregnant, or worst, minimal in STD. Today, you can be kidnapped, you can be killed, you can be raped, you can be drugged, you can be have pictures taken of you and put online, which is pornography. And so it's having straightforward conversation with our children about the reality of life. And it quite frankly, it stinks because childhood is short enough as it is. And to be able to have that kind of conversation with your child takes something. The age I would probably start having some of these conversations, it's going to scare you a little bit, and it's is 5 or 6. Yeah. Now here's the thing. One of my other experts that I interviewed, his name's Jeff Grismer, and he runs Child Rescue Network. And one of the things that he teaches his kids is it's no longer stranger danger.
It never was.
Exactly.
I mean, when it comes down to it, it never was stranger danger. And that's one of the things that really gets me riled up, because it never was stranger danger. It has always been people who are close to you within the family that have access and trust, yes, that take advantage. It's not strangers on the street. That's something that they use as a boogeyman to scare us as kids. Exactly. But honestly, anyway, so sorry, but that was always...
No, you're spot on. And having the conversation of empowering them, I'm not suggesting people be suspicious of everyone. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about awareness, because today we spend most of our time right here, not out here, right? It's really being aware of your surroundings and being aware of the people you have in your life, right? And the parents having that kind of conversation. And you can use, one of the best techniques I know of is the experts say, or find someone that's got a pulse into that generation. Look, Ashton Kutcher is a great example. He's very clear. You are who you spend your time with. So who are you spending your time with? Right? So to be able to speak from someone that they admire, and Sharon's going, or my dad used to say, therefore it's not me coming this way. It's more peer-to-peer conversation. And as a parent, there's a responsibility we have to monitor what's happening here and on our computers, right? There's several softwares that parents can actually put on their kids' computers and their iPads and their phones to monitor what they're seeing, because one of the biggest issues is pornography. There's a cycle, right, of pornography leading to violent pornography, leading to that's no longer going to satiate me and I have to act it out, to abuse. And now that person's going to be part of that cycle. I don't know that the percentage is going to be exact, but it's pretty darn close. The Homeland Security said approximately 95% of pimps were abused as children themselves.
And that, is common throughout the stories, is that hurt people hurt people.
Exactly.
And that's part of the problem that we have with the system, is some of us become survivors and some of us become abusers, of those that are, because if you're not given the right tools, you only have those paths to choose from.
Exactly.
And I can definitely see that being a huge factor in why they would be twisted enough to go that way, because of the hurts that were caused to them. Not that it makes it any better in today's day and age to know, right, that's how it happened. But I guess that's where it comes to. Are we developing programs now? Because I remember way back when I was a teenager, I used to read this series of books, and each of the books was the name of a girl who had fallen into prostitution. And right, I forget exactly what the whole series, but it was, their stories of recovery from that. And these stories sound even they're so similar, and yet they've taken a more dangerous turn in this century, because that was last century. But but in this century, what are the programs and what are the things that can be done and that are being done?
Right. So I'm going to take on what can be done, and then we'll go to what are being done. So what can be done, every single speaker that I had last week the 16 people, every single one said, do you want to, protect your kids? Spend time with them. That extra hour or 2 hours you're spending at work thinking you're going to make more money to provide something, just stop. Be with your kids. They want to be with you. And even if they're pouty and, oh, mom, go away. Oh, dad, you're bugging me. It's okay. We're not supposed to be their friends. We're really supposed to be there to guide them and protect them and really set them up with a solid foundation so they can succeed. That's the number one. The number two is, there are all kinds of movies out that talk about this. And there's several documentaries. I just watched 2 or 3 over the weekend on Netflix. Hot Girls Wanted, The Girl Next Door. There's several documentaries that a parent can sit down and watch with their child and then have a conversation. It opens up the door for the conversation. That's really why I wrote the film that I wrote. I have a whole curriculum that goes with it because it opens up the dialogue for kids to do the critical thinking. If I'm at a party and I'm watching someone do something to somebody else's drink, what am I going to do about it? Now that I know the possible path that's on, what am I going to do about it? There was a story about 2 women that were out to dinner, as friends, and there was a woman on a date, and they watched when the woman got up and went to the restroom, the guy put something in her drink. One woman went to the bathroom and said, don't go back to the table. The other one went and got the manager, and they actually had the man arrested. Right? That's the kind of, we got to be awareness for us to teach our children. So I think there's really great ways for parents to open up those dialogues. I know there's a lot of conversation. In the States, we only have 22 states right now that teach sex education. I think that's a big missing in our schools. So that's one of the things we're doing is we're actually creating programs that we can go into the Boys and Girls Club or Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts or church youth groups to get this message out. I showed the film at a Boys and Girls Club last Friday, and I had 2 teenagers ask me for my business card so they could go talk to the principal because they want to show that film in their school.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, I think if kids know that there's solutions out there and ways to teach and have awareness, I think we really want them, and I'm going to use a term, out on the mission field, right? To have that kind of conversation. So those are some.
I really like that thought of empowering the children because really they don't listen to adults as much as we would like them to. And I know I didn't. I wasn't going to listen to nobody over the age of 30 when I was 15. No. And that's the same way they are today. I mean, and that's where those books came in. I read books when I was younger. Today's teens, they watch the television and the Facebook and the Netflix, and that's where they're getting a lot of their information. So creating more of that is definitely one of the things that you did say that did make me feel a little better is that I do know that especially in their formative years, as I would say, I did spend a lot of time with them. And that's one thing that working from home was really important in being able to achieve, because one of the things that I did in my life was to try and make sure that I was there in their later years as well as in their earlier years, because the way that I figured it was that it was almost more important to be there when they were 10, 11, 12 than when they were little. I mean, of course, even though they could do the things looking after themselves, sure they could make themselves their own cookies, but who are they going to talk to during that time, and so on. So that was one thing that I know that we emphasized in our family in the growing up years was that, and that is definitely one of the reasons that working from home and having a flexible schedule career can do for you in helping to keep that relationship. Now, one thing I did notice about those films that you were mentioning, though, is that all the victims are girls. What are they doing to show the days for boys, because boys really are the ones who think that they're bulletproof. Girls get the message all the time about how fragile they are and how scared they are, and half of the girls are running around crazy that they're going to be, scared that they're going to be raped walking down the street. That's the message that we tend to push at girls, but boys are just as at risk.
There's a really great film that I just watched over the weekend, a documentary called The 13th. And I'm gonna look something up while I'm chit-chatting for a minute, and I'll get you the name of the project. But it's probably one of the most powerful films I've ever seen about, in reality, what's happening to our men, and in particular Black men, and what there is for us to do about it. There's, the conversation out in the world of don't throw like a girl, don't hit like a girl, oh, you're being a sissy, don't cry. All of those are very subliminal messages to men that it's not okay to be a girl. And so this whole notion and questionality about, what does it mean to be masculine? What does it mean to be a man? How am I supposed to even be out in the world if I can't show my emotions, right? So my daughter has a brand new cat, and he's decided to hop up on the table to investigate.
Well, of course, that's what cats do. And as you're looking that up, another thing that I wanted to mention to the audience out there is that one book that really helped me when my children were growing up is a book by Gavin de Becker that's called The Gift of Fear. Yeah. And there was another one too, Protecting the Gift. Protecting the Gift was the one that was actually the most helpful to me, in that it helped to alleviate some of the fears by teaching you and showing you where the real fears were and how to trust your gut through the process of parenting, and it has all sorts of how-tos on how to choose your child care providers, how to choose your churches, and so on. And so those are some things that you can definitely take advantage of as far as resources go. And those will also help you to start those conversations with their kids at age-appropriate ways to communicate those fears to your kids.
Yeah. So it's called The Representation Project, and the film is titled The Mask You Live In. Actually, it's two films, right? So the 13th is about how many people are being enslaved and going into prison, and what that's doing to our nation. So that movie's called The 13th. The one that really is about men and masculinity and how do we teach our boys to really be who they are, powerful and loving, strong and kind, and that it's okay to cry when you're hurt, like it's okay. It's called The Mask You Live In, and it's called The Representation Project. I sent that on our group chat.
Awesome.
And it hit me so powerfully about what our boys are dealing with. And I think it's a really awesome opportunity for parents to talk to their boys about, being sensitive to their surroundings and not backing down for what they believe in. And the little thing on here, it's on their website. It's called Boys Crisis in America. And these are things I didn't know, right? I was a little surprised. It says 3 or more boys commit suicide every day.
Yeah.
Boys are 2 times more likely to drop out of school. And 93% of boys are exposed to porn on the internet before they're 18. And the impact that has on them. And that's where I found out that only 22 states require public schools to teach sex education. So, those are the kind of pieces of information that parents can take in and share with their kids and go, hey, Did you know? Are there any of your friends that you think might be feeling this way? And start to engage them in a conversation, whether it's mom to son or father to son, to have them open up about what one of their friends might be dealing with, which then could in turn lead to them opening up about what they're dealing with. And I was sharing on our telesummit, it's imperative that parents, and I'm going to use parents loosely because as we know, in today's world, the mother-father household isn't the standard household anymore. It's, grandparents are raising children, mother, father, aunts and uncles, cousins, older siblings are raising children. And it's imperative that who's ever responsible for these younger children, they create a safe space that they can share anything. Because one of the things that the survivors shared with us is when the initial, whether it was an assault, a rape, an attack, when the initial thing happened, no one wanted to tell their parents. They were petrified.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them say, I should have said something to my parents. Right? Hindsight's 20/20. And so for parents to create a safe space that, like, look, honey, you can commit the worst crime in the world. And I'm right here. And I love you. There was a period of time when my daughter was in high school, and she was at that point in life where there were two paths she could have gone. One is the path you prefer your child to go on. One, you're like, whoa. And my daughter was a straight A student, National Honor Society, went into public high school and ended up with a crowd that, it was just that crowd. And she was doing not horrible stuff, but some stupid stuff, right? And I remember for 9 months, my words to her were, honey, I love you. That's not who you are. Stop doing that. 9 months. And I know I was getting to the back of her brain, right? Because had I come at it full force, which is what we like naturally, what are you thinking? How could you? Like that, coming at it like that actually can push them another way.
Absolutely. I know that I experienced it in my own childhood. The more I was told no, the more I wanted to go the other direction. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Now, as we're talking about that, we're talking about our children and what signs and warning signs are there that they might be at risk for sex trafficking or that it's going on around them? Because we'd like to believe our children are going to come to us because we've laid the groundwork. We all have that fear that with all the groundwork in the world, something happens and they don't tell. So what are signs that we can look for that might give us that insight or, that tingle that maybe we should be digging deeper?
Well, first I'm going to talk about the tingle, and then I'm going to talk about two things. I'm going to talk about signs of recruitment and then signs of trafficking, right? So it's so interesting you say that, because one of the things every time I speak, I really am committed to leaving people with something, and that's trusting their instincts. Kids in particular. If a child doesn't want to hug Uncle whoever, don't make them. Because the moment you force that child to hug or love on or whatever, that other family member or that friend, you're actually teaching them to devalue their feelings, their own gut. There might be a reason why they want to hug Uncle Hoo-Ha or Aunt so-and-so.
And I know that I pissed off a few relatives when I didn't make my children give the hugs and kisses. Now, mine are a little bit older now, but this was something even back then, from the time they were little, you have autonomy over your own body. I was big on that, and I didn't force. And even to this day, I ask permission if it's okay to hug, and even from me. And so I definitely agree with that one. And I think that that's when you have to be willing to have your relatives upset with you. It's more important.
It is.
It's way more important. Let them be upset.
Yeah, and in that same realm, right? In my film, there's a moment where the lead character is walking into a party, and she looks like out, and she knows. It's in a moment, you can see it on her face. She knows she shouldn't be going to that party, and she can't tell you why. Right? There's no language that she can put to it. She just knows in here. And that's really what I want to leave every single child with. Trust your instincts. I don't care what your friends say. I don't care what the media says. Trust your instincts. If it doesn't feel right, if it gives you that tingly feeling, stop. Don't move forward. Don't just stop for a moment and look at your options. Because I think our kids are so desensitized with this and with what's happening on the media. You know, their reaction time to something is far slower than it could be. So if we actually teach them to pay attention to their gut and their instincts, that could actually save a life, right? And for adults, you know, you walk by environments, you're at the gas station getting gas, and you see something kind of funny, and you're like, that can't be it, and you keep going, right? It stands for us too, as grown-ups. Is there's something about watching a younger girl dressed inappropriately, or a young boy surrounded by other larger boys, that, you know, it's the PC environment. I don't want to get in trouble. It's not my business. All of those things that we've kind of been taught that, you know, you can very simply, and I'm going to ask everybody listening and repurposing again, there's a number you can put in your phone and you can call them at any time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's the National Trafficking Hotline. And that number, I want everybody to pull out their cell phones right now and put the number in, and I know we'll put it on social media too. It's 888-3737-888. They have 150 languages they speak. And it might take them a minute to answer the phone, but they'll go through an assessment, determine what the situation is, and where to either connect you to or send you to. If a child's in immediate harm, they'll say, you know what, Stanley, you know, call 911 and we'll, you know, make sure someone's on the way. Or they'll go through an entire trafficking assessment and say, you know what, you're spot on. Can you get the picture of a license plate? Can you get a picture of the child? You know, like, they'll actually talk you through what there is to do. And so that's something that as an adult, you can do from a distance to still keep yourself safe and do something and actually take an action, right? And so the things you want to look for, that's kind of taking you into the things you want to look for. So in recruiting, one of their favorite things to do is to make promises. You know, oh, you're so beautiful. Let me get you a job in modeling. You have such a beautiful voice. I own a record label company. Come sing for me. Oh, you want to act? You know, promising things that above and beyond that we know as adults really aren't realistic. There's, you know, not everyone's going to be a Justin Bieber. It's just not. Presenting out of the ordinary extravagant gifts. Brand new iPhone 7, you know, Gucci bag, brand new boots, you know, things that I don't care what background you come from, would be considered extravagant. Little diamond heart necklaces or little diamond earrings. Extravagant gifts, that's another way they lure them in. They also want you to be secretive. So, you know, don't tell anybody about our relationship. It's secret. It's just between us. That's another tactic they use. And then on the other side, what parents want to watch for is, you know, oh, I was at the mall today and somebody offered me a job modeling. The little antenna's got to go up right away. And it's not the, are you nuts? It's the, really, honey, tell me about that. Let's go learn about that. And even then, because there was a girl who was lured into trafficking that way too, they actually set up a whole office building, did interviews for people. Yeah, did interviews for people. Yep. And then, you know, they dropped her off. Her little bag was packed. And as soon as she walked in that door, she was done. They took her phone. They allowed her to call her parents once a week, faking that that she was okay. And one of the things I share with parents is have a safe word with your child. Make sure you have a safe word, right? So if you're on the phone, nobody's going to know that, hey, you know what? There's spiders in the web. That's the signal right then and there. My kid's in trouble and I'm going to do something. And then your child becoming more secretive and withdrawn. Spending an exorbitant amount of time in their room online, or an awful lot of time, like way more time than this. And if you've got a software on your phone or on their computer, that will really make a difference, because you'll be able to monitor what they're doing and where they're going. And again, not like helicopter parent, but being aware. So those are some of the recruitment tactics and things for parents to look for. Signs of trafficking, if there's a child that's actually now lured into that lifestyle. Withdrawn, grades dropping, missing a lot of school and not having any absences, like the parents not knowing. Total change in dress. Little girls going from, conservative, normal, knee-length skirts or cute jeans to, booty shorts and showing lots of stomach and cleavage, total alteration in clothing. Getting angry for no reason, because a lot of these girls have lack of sleep. What happens, because the kids that they recruit in high school, they don't necessarily cart off to someplace. They actually take them out at night. They're raped 25, 30 times that night. They come back home, they go to school the next day. So they're exhausted, they're tired, they're snappy, they might look malnourished. Dressed inappropriately the other way for weather. If it's 95 degrees and 98% humidity and the girls have long sleeve scarves around their neck and long pants, you just might want to inquire. A girlfriend of mine who was, that's exactly what happened to her. She was in Michigan. She said, I had to hide the rope burns on my wrists and my neck. And the teachers knew, and yet they didn't do anything. And that's, the interesting piece, because they just didn't know what to say. It's the old, I don't want to get involved. And also looking for signs of alcohol or drug abuse, and cutting. Cutting's a big thing for a lot of these girls. And isolation, when boys become over-isolated, and they start hanging out with age-inappropriate people. People that are, if they're 15, 16 and their friends are 30, that's a pretty good sign that something's happening.
Wow. And that is, a lot of this does have to do with remaining connected with your children and keeping connected with their lives as much as possible, which means you have to be in a healthy space. If you are a survivor, like so many of the people that do watch the Freebirds are, and this Free to Fly conference, because of course it's about domestic violence, and you have these children, it is hard, but you must do it, to reach out to your support group to give you the support through this time if you do suspect that your children may be at risk. And the fact is that as a single parent, they are more at risk, just statistically speaking, they are. So it is really important to be aware of this, even in your own pain, even in your own suffering, that you don't put another generation through another type of trauma.
Yes, absolutely. And one of my friends, that's exactly what happened. Her parents were going through a nasty divorce. She met a young boy at a McDonald's. She thought she was being courted for a relationship. And well, he wasn't young. He was probably in his 20s. She was 16.
But that's very, very romantic to a girl of that age. Because, and on a natural hormonal and all of that sort of stuff, a 16-year-old is not going to know better than to not chase the boy who seems to be interested.
Well, and she didn't even chase him. he chased her. I mean, it was a full court press. And she actually ended up moving an entire, like from Bend, Oregon to Portland, Oregon, in with this guy, having no idea. And her father drove her up there. Yeah. So she was in this life for 2 years, had her life threatened twice. And the second time she's like, that's it, ran to the police. And even when she went back home and her parents were like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, right? And she's a big fan of, you've got to share what you're dealing with, very much with the abuse. Her belief, and I agree, is secrets kill.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, and her mom, God bless her and rest her soul, she thought she was protecting her daughter by, shh, don't tell anybody. No. Really, tell somebody about what's happening. So you can have, because I understand the Stockholm syndrome and the belief of when someone continues to tell you how horrible you are and how stupid you are and you're lucky to have me and you're lucky, and that whole nastiness that goes along with that abusive relationship. If that's all you hear, it's programming. You start to believe it.
Absolutely. And so many of the survivors are aware that you do start to believe the things that they say. So in order to counteract that, you must be filling their bucket as much as you can with that love, with the expression that you do trust them, that they can trust themselves and their intuition, and to give them as many skills as you're developing yourself in your healing. Absolutely. To be helping the children to apply them to their healing too, because that is the way to prevent these things from happening, obviously, is that communication and the awareness. Mm-hmm. Awareness and communication, those are the keys to being able to prevent these things, and that does require having a healthy outlook.
It does. And and it's interesting because this is a weighty topic. It's not roses and sunshine, and I don't ever like to leave people in that space, but I like to get them there to wake them up, right? To have something stir inside of them, that they're like, whoa, hang on, wait, this is happening? And then the next question is always, what do I want to do? Because after I show my film, people are in generally one of three spaces. Denial's my favorite place most people go. This can't be happening, and not in my country or not in my neighborhood, and I promise you it's happening everywhere. And I was there, when I came back home and I'm looking at the research going, hang on a second, Florida? Wait a minute, right? And in the second place, and this is where most men go, they get angry. They get really angry and want to hurt something. And that's really was the source of me doing something. Denial was a great place to live for a moment or two. And then I got angry. I'm like, hang on a second, this is the future, right? My dad was a military man. He was a Navy pilot. I'm Native American Indian. This is my country. People fought and died for my country. You are not going to steal its future by doing that to my children, right? And so that was the anger that got stirred up in me that really had me start paving the way. And I'm okay with people being angry, but I want them to take an action after that settles down, right? And then the third place that some people go is hopeless. It's such a huge problem. Who am I? What do I know? What can I even do? Right? And that's why I give people that 800 number, the 888-3737-888 number, and have them put it in their phone, because that's one simple action they can take that's not going to put anybody in harm or put anybody in danger. And then the second thing I share with people to get them out of that hopeless stage is share this with someone. Because when we have an educated community and an educated group of parents and educated children that are aware, that actually narrows the predator's chances of taking any more kids. It reduces the risk and has children feel empowered for their future. And that's really what we want. We want to educate people because we want them empowered to actually prevent it. And the work that you guys do, you know, giving people meaningful, purposeful work, creating beautiful fashions, right? Beautiful outfits for us to feel lovely in and graceful. That's God's work. That's purposeful work that actually has someone get up out of bed in the morning thinking about their past life, thankful that that's their past life, that they can now have a purpose and a skill that can generate money and income for them and their family. It's really magical.
And that's part of why we do it. And that's part of why this whole Free to Fly online conference and fashion show is so important, because we want to show that there are ways beyond the hopelessness. There's ways beyond being just surviving, because we want to take women from just surviving to really thriving, because it is possible that stuff that happened to us in the past, whether it was child abuse, domestic abuse, or whether it was within, you know, any of those things, don't have to be the end. They can be the beginning. Taking pain and turning it into something beautiful is what the Freebird Project is all about. And we're so thankful that you've shared this information with us, because it is another aspect of the whole abuse syndrome that we are suffering from all throughout the world. I mean, one of the things that saddens me most about the work that we do is that it does, as you said, it crosses all socioeconomic levels. It crosses all religions. It crosses all cultural, and there's nothing that really keeps it confined. It is insidious and it's everywhere, whether it's abuse or whether it's this trafficking. It is that same abuse cycle. They use a lot of the same tactics to draw you in, whether it's just amazing that so much is so similar, and yet we keep on getting trapped in those things. Now, before we do head off, now, do we have any questions? I know that this was a tough topic, and maybe some of you are sitting out there just holding up inside your chair going, oh my God, did I just hear that these horrible things are happening? But if you do have any questions out there, feel free to ask them, because it is through talking about them that we can solve them. If we keep quiet about it, nothing changes.
Right. And while we're looking for questions, I want to take off of something what you just said. You know, a lot of times children from an abused household, if they're not abused, they're watching the abuse happen, and instead of staying and watching it, they run away. And that puts them in a very vulnerable space. In the United States, there's approximately 1.6 million children that run away every year. And with the research that they've done, over half of them have done sex for fill in the blank. Food, shelter, transportation, whatever that is, right? And so ending the cycle of abuse in the home actually reduces the number of children at risk that will end up on the streets. And one of the largest groups that is really challenged in this arena is the LGBT.
Absolutely. And they have been experiencing
very high risk
condition. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to say that we were waiting for any questions.
Absolutely. So do we have any questions, Sasha? What is going on in the zone?
You know what? I would imagine it's probably just a very heavy topic. We don't have any comments or questions. However, what I have been doing for anybody following along is if you check the comments for this video, you're going to see the amazing project that Jan was talking about. There's a direct link in there now. I've also included the National Trafficking Hotline. So even though, you know, we might not have people out there that were willing to step forward and ask their questions, there are a lot of different resources, and you can always reach out to us after this as well, or replay this video for other friends and family to spread the word, and we can all be part of the change.
Brilliant. And I have resources on my website too that people can download. I have a really great PDF that you can download, the signs of trafficking, and we're also going to upload the signs of recruiting as well. So that's really some great information people can download and have with them. And then they can also go check out our film website, which is trappedfilm.com. And there's a trailer on the film, and even just the trailer showing that, you know, your family members or your children You know, it starts the conversation, and to me, that's the most important thing. I truly believe anything can be resolved in a conversation. And sometimes you have to have a little starter to pave the way, so to speak, to create that dialogue among people. And that's what really we're out to do, is we're out to disrupt it. And part of that disruption is talking about it.
Absolutely. And I just love that description of paving the way, and paving the way to the conversation, because of course that is part of what we're doing with the Freebird Project too, is if we talk about it and if we share these stories and we share, as I do with my podcast, The Triumphant Tales, they're stories of people who have been there, done that, and lived to tell the tale. And so those are those beacons of hope that you can look for throughout. And as we end off tonight, I want to, it's kind of hard after such a tough topic to get into the fun stuff and talk about the funky fashions, but we need to sell some of these clothes so that we can help some people, because that's how it all works, ladies and gentlemen. You help support us by, it's almost, I feel like I'm on PBS now. But we do have a lot better than those little discs that they used to sell for $100. I always used to watch them and go, oh, I want that. And I hope that you're sitting out there going, oh, I want that. This is a beautiful project, a beautiful top from the Freebird Project shop. It is the same one that you will find on the Freebird Project page that Carol was wearing in purple the other day. She wears it as a dress. I wear it over, no, actually she wore it over leggings, and I actually have it over a beautiful skirt that also comes from the Freebird line. So you can check those out at the freebirdprojectshop.com. And Sasha will do a little twirl in her lovely number so you can get an idea for what we do carry. We are, of course, the place where you'll find freedom in fashion.
Well, I don't know about twirl. Usually this is kind of a lopsided flop, but this is the one I'm wearing.
We'll do the lopsided. There we go.
It's got the most amazing arms, actually. Look at the sleeves. Very, very comfy. Looks adorable with a little belt. I know I usually wear it, and I wear it with leggings. So this is actually a piece that I just sat on my cat. So this is we all is actually a piece of clothing that I adore. And Trish, I'm going to hand this off to you.
And there you have it. This is what happens when you do things live, ladies and gentlemen. You might just sit on a cat. I'm lucky my dog didn't come in there at that moment. This has been, I know it's been a tough topic, but if we don't talk about these tough topics, nobody will. And if you can't laugh about the tough topics, it makes it more difficult for the conversation to happen. So be willing to open the conversation up and take the time to find out. Check out those links. We have them in the comments. Sasha's gone through and added all of the links that we talked about in today's session into the contact area. And when we do go back and edit later on, I'll make sure that they are included in the video as well. So thank you so much, Jan, for joining us. And they can find you again at pavingtheway.co. Is that right?
Yep, and an easier one to remember is stoptraffickingtoday.com.
Well, that's even easier, stoptraffickingtoday.com. So you can find all the information that we've talked about today. And if you do want to reach out on the Freebird page or through mypatricia.com page, feel free to reach out and make that connection, because those connections are what start the conversations, and that's what is going to stop trafficking, domestic violence, all of those things that we are passionate about here at the Third Project and at Stop Trafficking. They begin to end with conversation. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good night.
Night.